Hello, welcome to the Boston Bros podcast. I'm Jim Campanini, co-host of the show with Peter Lucas, columnist for the Boston Herald. Peter, how are you doing this morning?
We're doing fine. We're doing great. I got a parking spot out front.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, did you put did you get your card in there?
I put my credit card in. You got rejected, but we'll see what happens.
Because these meter maids in Lowell, they used to work for Tom Holman, at the border. So you better be very careful. They're very, very good. They can spot anything. So.
They're going to deport me from Lowell?
Yeah, well, you never know.
Send me to Lawrence? They're going to send me to Lawrence?
Send you back to Westford. It'll be a front page story in the Sun. But, do you have any, you don't have any stickers on your car, political stickers? Or
Oh, no.
Thank God.
No, I don't want to be keyed.
Yeah. So a lot is going on in this past week, and I tell you, the news just keeps coming out of that White House every day. I just, it makes waking up in the morning very, very good because I got the Boston Globe online, the Boston Herald, the New York Post, and it's unbelievable some of these headlines. But in Massachusetts, it's just unnerving sometimes. I was a longtime editor at the Lowell Sun, and it's just amazing to look at the Boston Globe and the hysteria on the front page. All these headlines, fear. Nothing has happened, but every day there's something about the Trump administration has threatened to cut Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. Now, the Trump administration isn't even talking about those programs.
They've denied.
They're denying it, saying, but still, it's like there's no raison d'etre for the Globe if they didn't keep doing these stories and if they cut this, then the asthma program is going to be cut, asthma is important, especially among children. But I'm saying to myself, if it's so important, why doesn't Massachusetts fund it? Why does the federal government have to fund it? And then the next day, there's another story about housing for a certain segment of the population, not even low-income people.
Jim,
it just keeps going on and on.
You know the answer to that question probably better than anyone else because you've been a newspaper editor for a long time. You've seen the media, the establishment media, drift so far to the left, you cannot get a balanced news story in a paper like the Globe or the New York Times or the Washington Post. And forget the networks. They are so far in the tank to the progressive left that it's beyond embarrassing.
Yeah, but my point is, it's not okay. We know the way the media is and stuff. They've got their own agenda now. It's too bad. But my point is, the legislature and the political leaders in this state. Raul Emanuel is credited with the quote, even though he's not the originator of it. Never let a serious crisis go to waste. So I say, here's Massachusetts developing their new budget, $62 billion. Okay, they're saying that $16 billion in federal funding is in jeopardy because of Elon Musk and President Trump's Doge, okay, to get government efficiency. They're looking for cuts and everything, all right? But there's no contingency plans in Massachusetts as to say, what are we going to do if this money is cut? And I like to say, Massachusetts is likely to get bulldozed, okay, in some way, shape, or form. But why isn't Governor Healy, Speaker Mariano, and State Senate President Spilka, why aren't they setting up their own Doge panel to make contingency plans? You see, they like to criticize, they like to point fingers, but this crisis is just building. Why don't they come up with their own solutions? Hey, residents, taxpayers, this is what we're going to do.
When is the last time you read a story about people being laid off in the state government or the budget being cut? When is the last time?
When the Red Sox...
You'd have to go back to 30 years when they cut the size of the Massachusetts House from 240 to 160 members. It's the last time I can remember any serious cut in state government.
Yeah, and that was supposed to improve government, wasn't it? And efficiency,
Yeah, it was
make it
supposed-
less unwieldy, more transparent. How did that work?
Supposed to be more accountability, more transparency, but what they ended up doing is doubling the staff, tripling the salary, and meeting remotely these days. So
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, here it is. You've got these the legislature. Some of them now making $180,000 in the Senate with all their stipends because there's 40 state senators. So some of them are chairman of two committees, and then there's subcommittees and stuff, and they meet for 22 minutes a week. All right.
on a busy week.
That's a busy week. And you're saying this, shouldn't Governor Healy be forming her own Doge panel to look at the crisis? What are we going to do about health care? You've got the healthcare system in this state. It's just imploding. A Brigham and a woman, they laid off 2,000 people. They have to make a 20 million in cuts by 2026 to survive. I mean, there's a company that represents a major entity in the healthcare industry in Massachusetts. They can see the future. They see what's coming. All right. And yet, why isn't the state of Massachusetts being nimble about this instead of just attacking every day and coming up with, calling on congressional delegations, which has got no clout whatsoever?
It's one thing, not being prepared, which I agree with you. It's another thing by attacking Donald Trump, who is in charge of disseminating funds to states across the country. And it seems to me, if you're going to attack the man who's providing federal funds to the state, I don't think that's going to work out too good.
Well, I mean,
because to play on Rahm Emanuel's quote, Donald Trump is a guy who's never forgotten a slight, ever.
Yeah.
And he remembers everybody who said anything negative about him, and it shows.
Yeah. Well, see, what this is going on with this political landscape is so disappointing and disturbing because they're looking at the worst of Donald Trump, and they like to keep bringing it up, or they make it up and stuff, instead of saying, hey, this is the situation we're in. How are we going to make things better for ourselves and be in a position of getting through this period if they really want to do it? Okay.
Well, if I were a candidate for governor or for any office statewide, one of my favorite planks would be to establish a commission to investigate state government and to recommend cuts, just like Elon Musk is doing on the national level.
Well, see, and this leads into my next point about the U.S. Senate vote to pass the continuing resolution for the budget. They avoided a government shutdown, and everybody in the Democrat Party, especially in the House, seems to be pointing the finger at Senator Chuck Schumer, okay, the Senate Minority Leader, because they needed, I think, 8 or 7 Democrat senators to cross the line with the Republicans to pass that resolution so they wouldn't have a shutdown. And Schumer initially was going to, be the roadblock, and he was going to, shut down the government, and people would be out of work, the military wouldn't have funding, and all these other things. And he came to reason and said, well, wait a minute. If we do this, we're going to get labeled the Democrats are shutting down the government, and he made a point, this is what we have to do. We can't close down the government. We can't shut it down. And he had to bite his tongue. And yet they're criticizing him.
He's paying the price for that.
He's paying the price.
But meanwhile, both our senators, Elizabeth Warren and Eddie Markey, voted to shut the government down. How do you figure that?
Yeah. It was absolutely crazy. And without even offering...
Of course, they would still get paid.
Yes.
But the people who got forced out of work would not.
And then Ed Markey put out a flyer to his constituents throughout the state asking for a donation. This is why I stood up to Donald Trump and voted against the resolution. He was going to shut down the government and create an even worse crisis.
And he wants to get contributions.
I know. $5 to $100 he put on. I mean, what gall? What gall?
I don't know. It would make it. It's a good television sitcom.
A lot of people is just tuned out about what's taking place in Washington, and including my wife. She doesn't want to see any more TV shows, anything about it. And I was surprised. A couple of my golfing buddies just getting together to talk about the upcoming season. They are staunch Democrats. We get along, but they announced to me that they've left the party. They've registered as independents. I mean, they still loathe Donald Trump, okay? But they said they can't believe that the Democrats are offering no solutions. They want to be the opposition party, and that's well and good. But he says, offer some solutions to all these things. Trump seems to have the high ground on almost everything, because when you drill down, these Democrat friends said, yeah, you know what? We should get rid of illegal immigrants who commit crimes in America, especially vicious crimes. They got nothing wrong. But men shouldn't be playing in women's sports.
That's common sense. Common sense.
So, and I say to them, what has been cut on your street? Any services? Do the streets do the garbage still get picked up? Do the roads, the potholes are getting filled? Do your grandchildren still go to school and get a decent education in Massachusetts? I mean, I said, what has happened? What has really happened since Trump has taken over the presidency? And they had to agree that there's a lot of fear-mongering going on right now, And I think this is happening across the country. A lot of a good Democrats, party Democrats, voters, they're questioning who is running the party and why are they doing some of these things.
We knew who was running the government 4 years ago. It was Joe Biden and his automatic pen.
Yeah.
Signing this, that, and the other thing. And you wonder if he ever knew what he was signing. Otherwise, who else would open up the country to all these vicious, illegal criminals, immigrants that they're sending back to El Salvador?
Oh, I mean,
it's closing time.
Yeah, and look at the images of those felons being let off the planes and put into that prison. I mean, would you want to be in that group?
If I were an illegal criminal immigrant in this country and I saw that video, I'd be out of here.
Oh, I know. Rather go through that. I mean, shave your head, put you in a white uniform, and lead it down. I mean, those prisons aren't very. I don't think there's a whole lot of.
Let's say there won't be any conjugal visits in El Salvador prison.
Unbelievable. So, but yeah, the solution part, Peter. I mean, you've covered politics for a long time. I mean, there seems to be a very dramatic drop-off in leadership and guidance in the Democrat Party. And now they're all at each other, tooth and nail. Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, they're all pointing fingers at the Senate. The Senate's pointing back at the House. They can't seem to get together.
Oh, there are no leaders. Even Gavin Newsom in California is moving to the middle. He's even leaving the left wing of the party, of which he was a prominent member.
Yeah.
And he's even got a podcast and interviewing conservative guests.
Well, is anyone going to emerge? I mean, where is that great bulldog Democrat that used to be there?
I don't know. We could probably make one if they came on our podcast.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's going to be tough. And, if it continues like this, look at the latest polls. Polls by CNN were released yesterday and was it NBC. okay, both showing the Democrat Party in a favorability poll had a lower ratings than the Republican Party. They said for the first time in like 60 years in both polls. Democrats in one poll had a 27% favorability rating, and the other 29%, and the Republicans were 34% and 35%. In Donald Trump's favorability rating was the highest of any time in his first presidency, and now in his second. So something is amiss here, and yet the Democrat Party is not changing its stripes.
No, it's like in a spiral downward, and they just can't get out of it. It is amazing that no leader has emerged yet to say, hey, time out, team back, let's consider what we're doing and where we're going. And let's come up with a program, with policies that may not challenge Donald Trump directly, but give us a different direction that can appeal to the vast majority of Americans. They haven't done that. Instead, there are forms, there's a cult-like resistance to anything that Donald Trump is doing, even though Donald Trump is doing things that are popular and things that he said he was going to do when he campaigned.
Well, I think that now is the time where, if the Democrats wanted a comprehensive immigration reform, this is now saying, talking to the administration, say, hey, let's work together. Let's do something. Now is the opening. At least it could have fair and tough measures, but now is the time to do it and get it passed, get something done. See, this is where I think the Trump administration and Republicans have the high road right now, because they're pushing the right buttons with the American population. Granted, even this tariff initiative with the president. Yeah, he said there's going to be some pain and you're going to have to take some on the chin, but eventually we're going to be a wealthy country again, and we're not going to be exploited by these foreign countries. And yet the Democrats are insisting that countries that have been cleaning our clock in the trade routes for so many years, we should continue to let them take our jobs, take our industries, take our technology. I mean, there's no logic behind that.
Of course there's no logic. How can there be any logic if your party is opposed to deporting criminal illegal immigrants? How can it be a serious party if it's for men beating up on women in women's sports? It just doesn't make any sense.
So I don't know where we go from here, but I will not be in any protests against Tesla. Okay, I mean that.
Well, speaking about protests, you had International Women's Day last week, and they marched on a Tesla dealership in Boylston Street. Then they marched up to State House to attack Trump and to attack Musk. And these are women fighting for women's rights, but none of them spoke up against banning men from women's sports, a basic issue that affects probably every family in the country. But they're silent on that. So you figure that one out.
And that's one that's polling 80%
right
in favor of keeping men from playing women's sports, and still not a nudge. And our own congressional delegation, everyone in the delegation, all solidly thinking the same, that they go to these little they look at legal, it's like they're looking at the small print. That's what they're making their stand on, the small print, saying, oh, the rights of these people are being violated. The rights of who people? You treat everyone with respect. There's discrimination laws in this country. I mean, you don't single out a group to get entitlement or privilege.
But that's what they're doing.
That's what they want to do.
And to the detriment of everybody else. If you're a young teenager, female in sports, trying to get a scholarship to a college to play sports, and some young boy comes along in your sport and knocks you out, and knocks you out of contention. How fair? How unfair is that?
Yeah, it's I don't know how long they survive with that stance, but the fact that they're not coming together and changing their tune.
Look,
is
the governor Mara Healey was a star basketball player at Harvard. She's 5'4", and she was a real aggressive forward guard or whatever she played, and she played against women. Now, just think for a minute if she had to play against a 6'4" guy. It's a biological man or whatever. You never would have heard of her about basketball.
No, she probably wouldn't have got that. Wouldn't have kept her scholarship.
I don't think so.
But it's just too bad. I think women should have the same opportunities that she had, and even Lori Trahan, our congresswoman, who from Lowell, who won a scholarship to Georgetown University for volleyball.
Right.
And then she was a great volleyball coach at Lowell High School.
Yeah, but she played against women, girls.
Yes, that's right.
But what she got that scholarship if she played against men?
Well, not if they were 6'6", 6'7".
I don't think so.
Or 6'2", like yourself. But anyway, switching, I'm going to throw you a curveball here. You have any good jokes over St. Patrick's Day breakfast or anything? What's going on with it? It just doesn't seem the same anymore.
It hasn't been the same since Senate President Billy Bulger co-hosted it years ago. And it has been a downward spiral. And, I watched the whole thing, and I don't know why. Probably had nothing else to do.
Now, you're talking about the one in South Boston.
The one in South Boston, yeah, which is the main St. Patrick's Day comedy celebration. But it wasn't much comedy. It was noticeable by people who didn't attend. Senator Warren didn't attend. Senator Markey didn't attend. Attorney General Andrea Campbell didn't attend. And the co-host, Stephen Lynch, the congressman from South Boston, he was in Switzerland. He didn't attend.
Gee,
so,
that was, yeah. And what does that tell you? I mean, it just...
The highlight was...
Doesn't have the cash.
The highlight was Diana DiZoglio, the state treasurer, as state auditor, who sang a song. So,
yeah, she sang a couple of them, and she had a couple of zingers in there and stuff. Boy, but that feud between DiZoglio and Campbell and the Senate president and the House Speaker, boy, it's getting really personal.
Let me tell you, they're making
some of those...
The establishment Democrats on Beacon Hill and their campaign against Diane DiZoglio and what she's trying to do is ending up liable to make her a candidate for governor.
Oh man, I mean,
she wants to audit the voters approved 70% to audit, give her the power to audit the legislature, and they're fighting that. And she's also dealing with the governor and contesting the governor's right to finance cities, to grant cities money who go along with the MBT housing plan. So.
Do you think that's headed to the Supreme Court?
Oh, I think so.
The ballot question probably is, right?
Well, it's the curious thing about it is the Attorney General so far has refused to take up the issue on her behalf. The Attorney General is a chief law officer and would represent the auditor in that case. But again, she's siding with the legislature rather than the state auditor.
Now, Mariano has issued that he is willing to negotiate. Now, the question is, what concessions does he want? I mean, yeah, there are exemptions to laws, and I understand that, reasonable exemptions. But I don't know what he's driving at. But there's going to be consequences for this. I mean, the public is I just don't think is going to tolerate this. I mean, it comes to me, the more this lingers, it says, what are you hiding?
Well, the more it lingers, the more it remains unresolved, the more stronger DiZoglio's position gets, because the voters want this done. They want the legislature audited. And they're being stymied. She's being stymied on Beacon Hill by the...
Well, you know what?
By the Attorney General, no support from the governor, The Senate President, Karen Spilka, is against it. Ron Mariano, the Speaker, is against it. And there she is, all by herself.
Yeah. And, maybe Auditor DiZoglio is the Doge leader of this state.
Well,
because if she ever gets to do that audit, we'll find out possibly just what Elon Musk and his team is finding out about the waste, the inefficiency in the federal government, what the waste inefficiency is in the Massachusetts.
it's possible, but the legislature maintains with some authority that it's a separate branch of government, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislative, and their duty is to perform audits on themselves and not have an outside agency come into their ken or their purview.
Have they ever done an audit?
If they have, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it yet.
I mean, who gets that job? But I tell you, it's just boy. I tell you, all these things are coming to the surface about the budget, the party, the inner workings, and DiZoglio. If you were to take a poll today, if the where the people stand, I mean, I think they back the auditor, and it's going to be in the high numbers. I mean, I think people are just tired of getting the rigmarole from government.
Well, she's in the perfect position to be the Doge type candidate because her office already audits various state agencies and bureaus and so on. And it would be the perfect office to place a Doge contingent in state government. I don't know if that'll happen. She's run into a lot of confrontations and a lot of people opposed to her on what she's doing on Beacon Hill.
What do you think about these, private colleges and especially Harvard that are now taking Trump's investigations very seriously? I mean, especially with the DEI, anti-Semitism efforts and stuff.
Look, I've covered a lot of campaigns, and you elect a person on what they stand for and what they say they're going to do, and they never get it done. This is the first time in my memory that I can recall a president doing exactly what he said he was going to do. And that has astonished and astounded a lot of people because that does not happen very frequently in our government, state government or the federal government. And these colleges are amazed that he's coming down hard on them, even though he said he was going to do it in the campaign.
Yeah, and I just found it astonishing that a day after, Trump putting the pressure on Harvard and the other schools with the anti-Semitism protests and other and DEI programs, that Harvard announces that families with a combined $200,000 or less in annual income will now go to Harvard for free if you get into the school, if you're admitted. I mean, they could have done this at any time. Okay, but now they're reacting. It gets them. So where is the praise for Trump that he's pushing them in this direction to use their unbelievable endowments? They get an endowment that could fund a third world country, maybe two of them, and now they're going to be open. They're going to open up their checkbook and pay for these pieces. And they're even getting rid of, some of their legacy admissions.
The left is not going to give Trump credit for anything. He could get the Nobel Peace Prize when he brings about peace in Ukraine-Russian war, and they'll still ignore him.
Do you really think that he'd get the Nobel Peace Prize?
No.
Okay.
I don't. No.
Okay.
No.
Well, turning a page to there,
you'll get it before he'll get it.
No, I think that Representative, was it Crockett?
The Congresswoman?
The Congresswoman. She'll probably get it,
Yeah.
But Yeah. Oh, turning to that about the conflict in Ukraine and the war in Ukraine and between Russia and Ukraine, are you optimistic that this will be resolved? Trump said he's talking to Putin today.
Well, if Trump doesn't resolve it, nobody else. There's nobody else out there. He's the only international leader who is bold enough and smart enough to bring about a peace plan and to get two sides together. Nobody else in the world could have done that. Certainly Joe Biden didn't. Joe Biden never talked to Putin. So, but if he does it, we'll see if he gets credit for it.
I think Trump, is holding a lot of cards close to his chest right now, because a lot of things are swirling. Rumors he's going to give Ukraine away to Putin. NATO will be dissolved, which isn't going to happen. But some of the things that the left wing has come up with, I mean, the scare tactics. Like, we're just going to walk away from NATO, leave Europe in defense.
Who would have thought that the Democratic Party, just with all the problems they got going for them, would be a war party for war rather than to bring about a peace? And that's because they hate Donald Trump so much, they'll give him credit for nothing.
Do you think Ukraine comes out of this hole, meaning the boundaries that were prior to Russia's invasion?
No, I think they have to give up something, and the Russians have to give up something. I think the Russians will give up less, and I think that the Ukrainians will have to give up more.
But is that a bad sign? Is that a bad message to the rest of Europe that Putin doesn't pay an enormous price?
If it is, then Europe should step up and do something, because how long can we continue to be the defenders of all of Europe when they won't even step up to defend themselves?
Yeah, a good point. And I think a lot of them have understood that and taken heed and will be increasing their budgets. But it's just amazing to me that we haven't heard anything out of England and France.
I only recall the 2 years I spent in the United States Army was on the Czechoslovakian border. So, because the Russians were going to threaten to, invade Germany, and we were there to protect the Germans. I don't know why the Germans couldn't protect themselves, but, I was there, and they were safe as long as I was there.
Well, I hope it does get resolved this week. At least there's a breakthrough and stuff. There's a lot of innocents that have been killed on both sides of that war, and the destruction is just terrible. Same as in the Israel and Gaza with the war with Hamas. So. And that doesn't seem to be resolved too. Netanyahu, I guess last night, had a bombing. He bombed some sites where he said terrorist activity was building up again, and it's just a shame. It's just a shame.
Well, my last comment would be, today is the day that the federal government is going to release all the information on the Kennedy assassination in 1963. I've been down there several times in Dallas, down at Dealey Plaza, where the event took place. And I've always maintained there was more than one shooter, because from that sixth floor of the Texas Depository Building, where Lee Harvey Oswald fired upon the president, very difficult to make a shot. I don't think he did it. I think I think it was a conspiracy, and there were other shooters there that assassinated the president, and I believe there was a cover-up. And let's see what these documents show.
So you think there was a conspiracy?
I think there was more than one shooter, and that would make it a conspiracy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting. I know 80,000 documents, and I praise Trump for doing it. I mean, it's
should have been done a long time ago.
Should have been done a long time ago. People deserved an answer. And I guess the Kennedy family, are they upset about this, the release of this?
I'm not sure, because
you think they know what are in those files?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Those files have been held close to the federal government's vest for decades.
It's going to be interesting to see if there was any role. J. Edgar Hoover, who was the head of the FBI at the time, he was investigating the Kennedys, and there's been books written about that he had dirt on both the president and RFK Jr. And did he really put his heart and soul into investigating the president's assassination, or did he know?
Well, we would have known this kind of stuff years ago had those documents been released.
Yeah.
Because, conspiracy theories have abounded. There was the mafia who did it. It was the Cubans who did it. It was Fidel Castro who did it. It was the Russians who did it. And we've not ever had a complete answer. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay. Well, I've got one thing, the quote of the week, okay? This comes from Governor Maura Healey, the quote of the week. I know $50 is not a ton of money compared to what people have been paying for the utility bills, but it is something. Every dollar counts. This is yours to keep. Governor Maura Healey said that and announcing that she hopes to save residents billions of dollars in energy costs over the next 5 years, starting with $50 that she is giving back to families in a credit. Now, when she made this announcement last Friday, she had no plan backing up her goal to save billions of dollars in energy costs. But she's giving you back $50. This is a start. How are you going to spend your $50?
Well, why $50? I think I'll make a financial contribution to the 𝐓𝐡𝐞 campaign for re-election.
Oh, no, you know what I'm going to do with my $50?
And that check will bounce.
Last year, my wife paid $190 for candy for Halloween. It was up $30 from the previous. She keeps records. Okay, she keeps. It was up from $30 from the year before, which was $160, and we get about between 700 and 900 children. Okay, on Halloween night in Lowell, where I live, and next year the cost will probably be even higher. I told her, because if this candy tax goes through, 6.25%, we're going to have to pay even more. So I'm going to take that $50 and put it in the candy tax pot. And hopefully this will go towards buying Reese's cups and Twix bars and candy for the kids in the neighborhood and all the others who come. So thank you, Governor Healey. And I'll just put a blanket over my wife and myself and the new cat we just adopted to keep us warm. Okay? Does that sound
terrific? That sounds a good plan.
Good. All right. Any closing thoughts?
That's about it.
You sure?
Positive.
All right, Peter. Hey, golf season is just around the corner.
Yes, golf. Yeah, we got to get the clubs out. Yep.
Yeah, so we'll do that. Well, listen, until our next Boston Bros show next week, this is Jim Campanini and Peter Lucas signing off.